On the 15th day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Moscow's forces are encircling at least four major cities and have inched closer towards the city limits of Kyiv. New satellite photos appear to show that a massive convoy outside the Ukrainian capital has split up and fanned out into neighboring towns and forests. Artillery also continuing to shell towns west of the capital. Valerie Dekimpe has been following the latest developments, and she's here to tell us more. Hello to you, Valerie.
Hi.
Are Russian forces really on the brink of launching this large-scale assault on the capital?
Well, the pressure is mounting around the capital, as you said. Russian forces trying to encircle the city. They're moving forward, regrouping, but they are doing that slowly. And the situation hasn't changed dramatically over the last 24, 48 hours. And that's because Ukrainians are putting up a stiff resistance. And I have a map that I want to show you of the surroundings of Kyiv. And you've got three major axes of attack. So west around Bucha and Irpin, there's continuous fighting there, and Bucha actually was in Russian hands yesterday, and now it's a disputed city again, and that's why you see it in red and yellow there. The southwestern axis around Yasno-Orodoka, that's west of Kyiv, and then again the eastern front line around Brovary, where Ukrainian forces badly damage a column of armored Russian vehicles in this area, and this shows you how Russian forces are trying to encircle the city, but at the same time, they're also getting dispersed across different parts around the capital. And that's what's happening essentially with that convoy of Russian vehicles near Kyiv that's been redeployed, regrouped, redispersed around the capital. And what's important to keep in mind, according to military experts, is that Russians are also fighting further north in Chernihiv. Unfortunately, you can't see it on the map there, but further north Chernihiv, and also in the northeast in Sumy, and efforts, so essentially getting dispersed in those areas too. And Russian efforts in Chernihiv and Sumy have both stalled, and what military experts are saying is that in order to launch a full-scale attack on Kyiv, well, you need the troops fighting in those areas as well, is what they're called the domino effect. And so unless Russian forces take Chernihiv further north and Sumy in the east, essentially it is very unlikely that they will be able to launch a full attack on Kyiv. And that's why the Ukrainians are pretty confident that the Russians don't have the manpower to actually attack Kyiv at the moment.
Yeah, so now a question of how the troops are being allocated. Valerie, you've also been looking at how Russian forces have been hitting new sites in the country as well.
Absolutely. So Russian strikes appeared to be moving west into new territory in cities that had not yet come under attack, as you said, since the invasion began. So again, I have another map that I do want to show you of three different cities. So it's Lutsk, west of the country, Dnipro, and then Ivano-Frankivsk. Neither of these cities have seen direct shelling since the invasion began. So we are seeing this new line of attack from Russian troops. So in Lutsk, missile strikes hit an airfield and engine factory. 2 people have been killed there. In Dnipro, bombs fell not far from a kindergarten, in a residential area, and a shoe factory. Dnipro is a city located on the river Dnieper, and it's also a major stronghold in central eastern Ukraine. And this city, Dnipro, is also full of heavy industry, including a rocket factory. Ivano-Frankivsk, an airfield was also hit, an army base, according to the Russian army. So this new line of attack really is the source of concern, and that's because for Ukrainian refugees, for civilians fleeing bombardments across the country, the West was believed to be a safe haven for Ukrainian refugees. And just this morning, an MP, a Ukrainian MP, said essentially there are no safe cities in Ukraine anymore.
And Valerie, on that map, we also see Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine, and that's still being bombarded quite heavily.
That's correct. If we zero in on the east now with another map that I want to show you, Russian forces have continued to bomb Kyiv over the last 24 hours. The governor of the region there saying that residential areas in Kyiv had been shelled 89 times in just one day. So heavy shelling there in Kyiv. But according to defense analysts, Russian forces aren't quite ready yet to encircle the city. They're trying to do that from the east of the city, but they haven't managed to do it. And Kyiv is a strategic point for Russia. It is the second largest city in Ukraine. It's also right on the border with Russia, so really a strategic point. And south of Kyiv, what you see in that map there, the city of Izum, where Russians are ramping up operations to try to seize 3 smaller cities around Izum. That's 110 kilometers southeast of Kyiv. And we are getting reports, actually, that Russian forces have shelled a psychiatric hospital in Izum. The latest we're hearing is that there are no casualties reported in Izum, as the patients there were taking shelter in the basement. But essentially, just what this tells you here is that as Russian forces try to move to the south, close to Izum, their objective really is to try to link up with Russian forces in the Donbass area here. But again, it is unlikely that they will be able to consolidate their presence in the eastern flank of the country and link up both forces, Kyiv and the Donbass, as, again, their efforts around Izum have failed so far. And last but not least, just very quickly, one new development there behind me, north of Mariupol. We know that the city of Volnovokha has now been seized by Russian troops, so that's just north of Mariupol. That strategic location, again, Mariupol, which has been under siege for several days now.
Yeah, a very fluid situation. Thank you very much, Valerie Dekimpe, looking at the latest fighting in Ukraine. And